But, okay.
Recording in
we will
progress.
Call to order the, special meeting of Mount Anthony, Union 14, sorry. It is Wednesday, November 19th. The first item on the agenda is public comments.
There is a member, let me see if I can show you
This one.
hello.
There's a couple, I see an Adam and Sarah on
Here.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so I see Sarah. This is the opportunity for public comments. If you would like to be unmuted, please hit the raise the hand button. I think we'll move on, and if for some reason that pops up. We will move on to the consent agenda. We have minutes, warrants, retirements, leave of absence, resignations, and nominations in the packet, and I have a vote to approve the consent agenda as presented. Voted by Leon, second by Glenn. Any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor? Okay, we'll move on to finance. I don't believe I saw the treasurer's report in the packet. We had a little bit of a challenge with the packet this month, so I may be missing it, but I do not believe we have it. I don't think we have to vote.
I just sent an email to members too. I apologize. There's a message forwarded to me from Katie West, just recognizing that the packet link is broken. So there's an updated link in there in your email if you want to go back and visit that.
But frequently the treasury report hits a different month, so we will move on
Yep.
from that and go to operations. Is there anything under operations?
No. So
Okay. The MAU, we'll move on to number 5, MAU camera RFQ summary.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam. I'm from the IT department. Now, just some brief history on the camera system upgrade process that we've been following district-wide. So the district has an aging security system across all of its buildings, not just the middle school. And we started this process about 2 years ago where, as buildings are literally getting into a failure state, or to a state where it's not useful or helpful to administration, we've been replacing the camera system 100% building by building. Right now, the priority is the middle school. Back in the spring of last year, it faced a failure, and we put a Band-Aid on it. I think, unfortunately, Chris isn't here, but Chris could speak to that it's not functioning in a way that's helpful for administration. So we went through a process requesting a quote for new hardware, and that's what's before you. So this is replacing what's existing in place. We did a walkthrough with the security team and also building administration, got their feedback, and they've determined that the cameras that we're requesting are adequate and going to meet the needs of what they need to support the building.
Are we buying the same camera systems SU-wide? So
Yes.
the technically parts can be swapped out as time goes by and Band-Aids need to be done?
Yes, which is why I think, as we've done this RFP building by building, the first RFP, we had many options to pick from because it was kind of a first swing at it. We're many buildings into this process, which is why I think we're getting less and less vendors responding or manufacturers responding with proposals.
What is the lifespan of these cameras?
10 years.
Are there other questions?
The cost.
The cost to do the middle school is the 115,000. So it's fluctuates by building, but that's the cost for the middle school.
It is not, but we do have funding to do it.
Does the high school have improvements coming in the same?
Yeah, so we've been prioritizing based on the state of the system. The high school does have, just the nature of it being a high school, does have one of the newer systems and the newer cameras. It doesn't mean that it's adequate and fully meeting the needs, but there's other buildings that I think are high on the priority list. But the plan is the high school will also be upgraded all to this new system. So, you know, not to dive into the security plan, but we did get all the doors on the same system now. So we have a single card swipe system across all buildings. And this is moving forward to, so we have a single camera system district-wide as well. So the high school is on that plan as well. But there's other buildings that are, I think, in a higher priority state. So I'd say the high school's a little ways out.
And are you prioritizing based on like the tech department's ability to do the work or based on dollars in the districts?
It's a mixture of both. So I think that it's the, bandwidth of staffing. It's obviously causes an interruption when we come in and have to replace the system, so it has to be worked around vacations and whatnot. When students are out of the building. And then I would say that, yeah, dollars is obviously another piece. We want to be fiscally responsible and not like the high school is still functioning. But we obviously need to get to it within the next, 24 to 36 months. But it's a mixture of dollars, bandwidth of, local, some of the buildings require electricians. The middle school at this point does not. So we're safe in that aspect.
Question, maybe it's for Renee. When you say we have enough to cover it, is this enough to cover it in the MAU budget? Okay. And is that at the expense of anything else?
There are a couple of positions that we had in the budget this year that haven't been filled. We are dipping into those funds with extra stipends that are being paid for extra courses that teachers are covering. But we also have a contingency that we carry in the MAU budget of $300,000. So if there wasn't breakage someplace else, we could always look to those funds.
I just want to know, what was the current warranty under the camera system that we have? Did we exceed the life of that?
Yeah, I think the current system, there's components of it dating to the original version of the building. And I'd say like the newest components, we're talking maybe 2014. The useful lifespan of, technology in general, like laptops and most technologies, 5 years. Security systems, we try to push to 10 years because, it is an expensive piece of equipment. So when we spec it out, we're looking for manufacturers that have the same target. So I would say, yeah, we're well past, if in some of the areas of the camera system, almost double what the useful life is of the system.
So maybe as a follow-up, I would just ask, and we could be in similar positions based on what you've said with some of these other buildings, but have we been spending an exorbitant amount of money keeping this system going? When if we, not knowing now what we know, if 5 years ago we had just replaced it, we might have spent $50,000 since then to patch this thing together.
I would say up until we started, looking at this holistically and coming up with a solution district-wide, the answer is yes. But now as systems fail, like we're not going to the middle school and saying, okay, let's put a $30,000 Band-Aid on this. The Band-Aid we did was, borrow some old hardware that was retired from another system. We've kind of pieced it together from hardware that's been, replaced from other buildings as we go through this process. But we're not spending mass amounts of money to maintain an old system. We're taking the approach of just replace it and take the path that we know is going to drive a stable 10-year future.
So we were, at one time, had a list, buildings and grounds and things that we needed to try to do. Is this on that list or not on that list?
Did you not believe the cameras fell under buildings and grounds? That's always fallen under IT. So I do not believe, I don't know what list, but if it was categorized buildings and grounds, this most likely did not fall under them.
So that's why I was just wondering why we get, if it's something that's gonna need to be replaced, like the roof and other stuff along this line, we need to be having that on that list of items so that we'll be preparing for that. That's what we're getting at.
Do we have like a plan for,
We're required by the new district quality standards
Okay.
to have at a minimum a 5-year plan, which Holly has, and it is updating. I think it's
Okay.
aged a little bit right now, but yeah, as far as that work,
that would be an interesting thing.
that'll guide our budget building, as we move forward.
It'd be interesting to have IT added to it, and this particularly if we're gonna have an MAU cost at some point. We don't, we don't have a reserve fund for these types of things, right? So we're budgeting on an annual basis for the,
I'd say with Adam, like with tech stuff, we're looking at it systematically so that we're doing certain projects over the course of time. So this just happens to be a need that wasn't in his budget for this, at this point, because the system has failed. So just to get it up to what it needs to be, I was like, we can pay it out local, like there's money to do it, let's just get it done.
I
But
think
I
that
think going forward, it
forward view is gonna be so important, because it's,
I appreciate Scott's question about, where were we 5 years ago? Could we have done better? And I'm hoping that the technology and what's available today is better and crisper and cleaner and just a better picture overall. And I'm also wondering, are we going to stay with the same vendor? Or is it going out to bid? What process happens there?
So I think that, with the way the budget's set up in this district, we couldn't do like just one grand, hey, we're gonna go district wide. But I think that if the manufacturer we've been going with, which is Verkada, they continue to be price competitive, which they have been this whole time, they'll keep winning. But we do, invite other manufacturers to bring proposed solutions to the table as we go to each building. That answers the question. Like we want it to be competitive. And we want to make sure that obviously we're getting the best price. And unfortunately, the smoothest path for that, we would have done one grand RFP 2 years ago. The cost of that wouldn't have been digestible, I think, district wide. So we've gone this approach where we're breaking out over, 2 to 3 years to get to all the buildings, which requires us to do these RFPs every building. But we are, we do value the integrations that exist building to building. We're looking at that. And then when it comes to, the replacement cycle, the IT budget has moved to a replace, for workstations, laptops, they all have useful lives. That's all budgeted for. These bigger systems, we're working those into the budget as well. So everything will be on a replacement cycle.
I would add one thing to what Renee said, as part of the work from the new district quality standards. As an SVSU, we have to be working in 2 areas. One is a priority list for buildings across all buildings in the district. The other piece is a budget process that will involve much more value on prioritization. Recognizing you have a set amount of money, you have to set priorities, which should go to Leon's question. Are we going to be able to anticipate 3, 4, 5 years down the road? What are the big ticket items?
I just want to go back, Sandy, they, in the board packet, and I know that it looks like they had a quote from Connection and another firm that chose not to provide a quote, and then the firm that
I
they
didn't
picked.
get that in my.
Yeah, so they did,
Oh.
they did request
Thank you.
bids from different areas. I just wanted to clarify.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I just want to say, it's the bigger picture is what Ham was talking about. It's needed to be coming from SVSU and say, let's get everybody on the same picture because we're drawing from the same resources and we having the same people. Every school work their way up, even though, and every administrator has this, it should be looking at the same thing that everybody else is looking at in every school, even though you're not ready to upgrade your camera system there, but we should have a umbrella type of,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be an interesting,
Yeah.
I think that's a specific challenge, because, you know, I'm sitting here and looking at through the lens of Mount Anthony, like high school and middle school, not, you know, not the budget impact on the elementary district, you know, because, and so that would be a different budget process, right? Like right now, we're going bottom up,
Yeah.
and that would be a top-down budget process, and SU really only has
Our own budget.
and well, administrative, I mean, your responsibility, their responsibilities are administrative and special ed, right? So like our responsibilities are these things. And so until they, but yeah, I mean, that's a specific, different problem, I think. Any other questions about the camera system?
I just got a quick one. I'm seeing a quote in here from Gov Connection. Is that just the equipment for 54,000?
So Gov Connection provided a quote for Access, is the manufacturer, great camera manufacturer. They've been around for a while. The problem with that quote is that there was no storage or the software or licensing included in that.
So that's a completely separate quote from the other one, separate company.
Yep, totally separate. It's just not, unfortunately, not an apples to apples comparison. We did reach out and ask to have it brought up to that. And then it just didn't get a response back.
It's just a confuser. That's all. Thank you.
What is standard for, sorry, what is the whether it's industry standard or standard for storage? Is it held for a,
Yeah, so the district targets a 30-day retention. So that's like the minimum retention target. There's other areas that, you know, if the building principal or administration wants certain areas retained longer, we can. But we aim for 30-day retention.
Thank you.
Is that a yes or you're good?
No, good.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the request for camera system as presented?
move it.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? We have nothing for policies. On to the administrator's report, starting with the student representatives.
Thing. This is Chloe. The high school clubs have been very busy recently, especially the drama club. The fall musical Shrek has come to a close just this past week. The Patriot Players performed 4 shows, 3 evening and 1 matinee, 2 of which were sold out. Yay! And as well as 2 school day shows to elementary schoolers. And there is also way in the future, but I don't know if you went to see the musical, but there will be a spring play as well. National Honor Society hosted a bake sale on Saturday as well at Grace Christian School. And we also, for National Honor Society, also have a can drive and a blanket drive in progress. A few weeks ago, our Interact Club hosted a blood drive as well.
For sports, we're in between fall and winter right now, but Nordic did begin, and then basketball, dance, and indoor track are starting at the end of this month into early December. And then we're getting new bleachers. That's our extra announcement. For now.
You. Any questions?
Thank you.
Comment.
Yeah.
My wife is amazed that the drama and musical they keep replacing the talent, because we keep losing people, and,
Yeah.
but there's not.
They graduated.
It is amazing. It's every year is like, they can't do better, and then they do better, you know.
And this year they even had like a group of tap dancers come out for.
Yeah. I think those tap dancers were from Berkshire Dance. I think so.
And the bleachers look pretty awesome.
Thank you. We'll move on to the high school report with Principal Carmichael.
So before I began, I didn't see his name on the agenda, but we do have, our athletic director.
Yeah.
Like, with us, wasn't sure if we wanted to.
So if you guys have, yeah.
That's perfect. Sounds good. Mike.
Thanks, Adam. So I did throw in I didn't get on the agenda, but I asked Adam to slide me in under his report. I did throw the coaches memorandum in for you guys, so you can see all the coaches for the winter season. We're looking good as far as that goes. Just wanted to let everybody know that we are adding, based on interest, a third high school boys basketball team. It's back this year, JVB/Froshmore. We have over 40 boys who are interested in playing high school basketball, which is the most we've had in a long time. We did have some extra budgeted, money, so it's not gonna we're not gonna be pulling from somewhere else, but that is an addition. They will be having a schedule about 10 games, so about half of what, a JV season would be. And their practices will be over at Bennington Elementary. I've already kind of sorted that. Their games will be at Kate's, but they'll be practicing because there's no more, practice time is very slim with the other teams. So that's a positive, for us as well for this year. So I'm happy with that. The numbers are growing. And all other sports, both at the middle school and the high school, are back. I have opened up swimming for this coming year. It's not a VPA sport, but we are going to allow 7th and 8th graders to join in with swimming. They swim in the Berkshire League, and all the other schools use 7th and 8th graders. So just in terms of equity, so similar to what we do with Nordic skiing, they'll be practicing and kind of working together as far as that goes. I also included a list of all our clubs and activities that are currently running at Mount Anthony, so you can see that. And I also gave you a wrap up from the fall, just as far as our numbers go. And congratulations to the girls golf team, which came in D1 runners up this year. So that was a great accomplishment for them. And none of them are graduating who scored in the state competition. So we'll have the full team back again for next year. So future looks pretty good for girls golf. And any questions that anybody has, and I know the bleacher project is happening. And I was a little nervous. I was a little apprehensive about putting new bleachers in between seasons. I told Mr. Carmichael, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? But it is ahead of schedule and going smoothly, and they should be fully installed by the end of this week. So that looks positive. And then we've got to buff up the floor a little bit and get her ready. December 1st is when everything starts. So Nordic skiing has not begun yet. Nothing has begun yet. There are open gyms and captains practices and whatever going on, but everything officially begins on Monday, December 1st. So after the holiday.
Who does the hockey club play? And where did they practice?
It's a good question. It's not, they go up to Riley Rink, and they play themselves. They get rink time. And so the hockey club is a very well-received club. It's co-ed, and they go up to Riley Rink. It lasts for, it's just like a couple of months in between, like October, November is when the hockey club goes.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
That's their final.
Yeah, they love, like, the kids who do hockey love it. So they go up to Riley Rink. So it's in between. Once the winter season starts, they can't use the ice. They don't get the ice time anymore. So
Girls Wrestling Club, is that separate from? And do they have a schedule? Or-
it's new this year. It's just a club. Good question. It's new this year. I had some girls who were interested. I think I talked to Adam about this. The VPA is going to introduce girls wrestling as a sport within the next couple of years. All right. Right now, if a girl wants to wrestle, she has to wrestle on the co-ed team, which is mainly the boys team. And we've had that in the past. This is just a club. So it just meets after school. There are coaches. It's 2:30 to 3:30 on Mondays and Wednesday. And they just go through, kind of moves, routines, stuff like that. We've had the girls fill out a waiver. And so they're not traveling anywhere. The Mount Anthony Club is just a club, but it's to look ahead for, a possible team in the coming years. If they wanted to participate against other competition, they'd have to join the co-ed team that we have that starts on December 1st.
Ski and Snowboard Club.
Yeah.
Where did they?
They're going to Magic this year. They've got a deal up in Magic Mountain. It's back this year for the first time. We did it, fell apart around COVID time. They were going to Jiminy Peak or down to Berkshire East. They've got a deal at Magic, and it's going to be on Sundays. So that would be open for a lot of, like, some of our athletes want to go up as well, because maybe on Sunday they don't have a day. So we have some advisors for that, and we'll get busing, to the mountain, and the kids pay to be a part of that. They've got discounted lift tickets. But the good thing what Magic did was they were able to give the kids a pass that is not just for that, it's for the whole year. So a discounted pass that they could use on their own as well as with the club. So a lot of good stuff going on, a lot of good stuff.
I have an semi-unrelated question. How we have the van?
Yeah.
How is that?
It's going well. We've used it. We used it during the golf season. It helped us through states competitions. We used it. Allison's been using it with school to work. We went up to a student athlete leadership conference up in Burlington. And we used it for travel there. So it has been used. We've got procedures. I've got it, so I would say so far it's been out on, 6 to 8 trips so far. And it's been less than a month, I think, that we've got. So I think positive, so far. And Renee hooked us into the Hoffman's car wash fleet as well. So we've got we got washed up after
stay clean.
we got washed up and yeah, because it just so happened that over the student athlete leadership conference was up in Burlington over Veterans Day, and that was when the snow the snow hit. So we had the all-wheel drive too, so all was good. It's good.
I just had one more question. If no one else has, do we have like a weight room club or anything? It came up. I had a junior in my car on the way back from soccer the other night, and he, out of the blue, announced that he was thinking that it would be great if we could, maybe you could figure out how to open the gym, like the weight room and the athletic, like to work out with peers, because right now he said he thought it would give people who didn't have the resources more access. Like right now, most of the people go either bypass the rec center or something at any time. So I didn't know if
So the weight room takes the image, takes a little time off. It's going to reopen December 1st, I think. It oftentimes, there are weight room advisors, and there are two people down who will open the weight room, and that's part of their club, activity. And a lot of times it's football like players who will go in and use it, but it's open to anyone. And there are 3 or 4 days a week that it is open and supervised. So we'll get that word out, to anybody. And any team can go in. I know there are like some teams who are doing, captain's practices and like coaches are just there kind of like open gyms or open lifts. And so it has been used, but it is a little, right now the weight room is getting 24/7 use because the PE classes are in there as the bleachers are, so it's been busy over the last couple of weeks because the bleachers install has happened. So the PE classes have been pulled out up there. So, yep. I'm back to you.
Great. Well, I gotta say, I definitely benefit from the high school entourage that joins me, so it makes my report pretty easy. Trying not to be super repetitive, but I will just, again, highlight a huge thanks to Lynn Sweet and the entire cast and crew of the Shrek musical. I was able to attend the finale performance on Saturday night, which I'm told by the crew, although all performances were amazing, that was the best one, so I made a good choice. As others have already voiced, it's like absolutely incredible to see the work that Lynn and all the students and the crew do with all of the shows, but this one was especially impressive. So I hope everybody had a chance to go and see one of them. Really, really a special night. Another just update on something that we have good going on at the high school. We have the Bennington Rising program. Collaboration between Bennington College and the high school. I mentioned this at the October board meeting. It was just getting underway and just starting. So high school students and Bennington College students collaborated kind of on 2 separate projects. One group worked together to create science lessons, science for kids lessons that just this past Tuesday, they traveled to Bennington Elementary and taught these science lessons to 4th and 5th graders there. Which was hugely successful, and our students just absolutely knocked it out of the park. And the elementary students really enjoyed seeing their older peers and learning science from them. The other group has been working on what's called What's in Your Food projects that are being displayed at Bennington Museum. So those they've already gone and set those up there. Tomorrow night, there is a gala event at the museum from 5:30 to 7. So I encourage anybody that has some time tomorrow night to head on up to the museum and check out the work that our students collaborated with Bennington College to put together. So that's a great collaboration that we had going on. Again, not to be super repetitive, but I'll just highlight new bleachers being installed in the gym. That project's going well so far. Old bleachers totally removed. Took an opportunity to clean and paint some areas that hadn't seen the light of day in decades. So that was nice. Delivery of the new bleachers went well. Thanks to the Bennington Police Department for helping with traffic flow that morning. If anybody was there on Monday morning. That went smoothly. And installation is in progress and seems to be on time or ahead of schedule. So that's great. Just like to always give just a quick update informationally about like half days. We had a half day today. We'll have, of course, the half day before the Thanksgiving break next Wednesday. And then the week after the break, we'll have another half day on December 3rd. So that should be the remainder of the half days for this calendar year. And then lastly, on my notes here, just a couple of new course proposals that we have for the high school. We're working on our courses, our program of studies for next school year. We're looking to introduce 2 new courses. Both of these are addressing student need that we've heard from the student body, as well as, I've heard this expressed from board members here, especially Dave, to see what we're doing to improve our physical education curriculums. So we have Physical Education 3 course proposal that we're looking to add to our program of studies. pass this around if anybody that's interested in reading a little bit more. So this course would be an elective physical education class beyond the two P that are required for those students that are looking to add another PE elective, be open to juniors and seniors. Student-centered course, just designed to allow greater engagement in physical activity through some student choice, right? They could choose to explore things such as maybe fitness training, yoga, dance, team, individual sports, martial arts, recreational games, outdoor activities, the list goes on. And that would be a semester-based elective credit. We also have an introduction to Spanish course that we are looking to add to our program of studies. This would be a course in basic conversational Spanish, designed to provide students with an introduction to communicating the language before necessarily engaging in a full Spanish 1 curriculum. Focuses on conversation, basic Spanish, learning about the Spanish-speaking world and its cultures, being interest to engage students wanting to learn some, basic level Spanish, like to build a foundation before they jump into Spanish 1. This would be a half credit course that would go for 1 semester, open to all grades 9 through 12. So we're excited to be able to offer those in addition to our robust program of study that we already have.
I wanted to mention another collaboration. I'm talking not as a board member now from the banner, but thank you to Adam and Tim for, I'm not sure if everybody here knows that Mike Lawson has left the banner. And Katie West hooked up Mike, Sharice, our editor, with Mark Upright, who is going to get some of his sports journalist kids to write all the winter previews for the paper. So I thought that was a great thing, and the kids will probably love seeing their names on the byline. So we're really looking forward to that banner and maybe continuing that collaboration going forward.
Good. Appreciate that reminder.
Yeah.
That was a quick phone call from Katie connected with Mark, and within 5 minutes, that was all in Mark and the students' hands. So appreciate that.
They're working it out now. I think Sharice is going to come by the high school to talk to the class, to tell them what she would expect from them and deadlines and little journalism 101, I guess.
Really great addition to his sports journalism course too. Yeah.
So we appreciate it. Thank you. Till we find somebody else. Forever to find anybody like Mike.
Maybe one of the students.
Maybe. That's right.
For a job at
The other non-board would be the Interact Club participating in that following.
I think I thanked them the last time. If I
thought
didn't,
you already.
the Interact Club and the
31st.
and the cheerleaders. All right. The Interact Club and the high school cheerleaders came to the Banners trunk or treat so that these old legs didn't have to do all the running. And I had 35 kids, I think, all told, between candy runners, traffic directors, and everything else. So I loved having them because I was the only one there. My rest of my staff bagged on me. So yeah, appreciate them.
I have a question. This is the course offering information as an FYI at this particular time, and that's all it's supposed to be. What happens for the ones that we don't offer in terms of an FYI?
Like when we choose to take something off of the
Right.
course offering. You mean,
Somebody asked me that question, and I gave them what the responsibility was to the superintendent and the principal for doing the courses and offerings. But then they said, well, when they get dropped, who knows it? And so I'm asking that question out here.
I've asked I was asked that question also.
Oh, you were?
I
Mhm.
asked our attorney the question, and I can confirm again, but it's my understanding from the attorney that like we have a book of offerings, right? And we do not, and Tim, please chime in if I'm wrong on this, we do not offer all of the offerings every time, right? Like this board is not approving the exact offerings of the year. And so therefore, like we're only approving what offerings are available for the administration to pick. Right. And like, if, as long, like, so we don't have to approve when they don't offer it next semester, right? So if they choose not to run Spanish 2 next semester, that doesn't mean they're taking it out of it. Now, maybe the board needs, if there's board members that are concerned about the length of time that certain things aren't running, maybe there's something, I can go back to the attorney and ask, like, if there's a timeline that, in which we could ask the administration to come talk about the classes that we're choosing not to run, like, like if we haven't run Latin, I don't know if we run Latin, but if,
For a while.
right, so we haven't, probably because of lack of teacher, so I think that was the answer, right? Like, we're not approving what they're offering every year. We're approving the course offerings that are available for them to offer to the students during a given year. Sorry, go ahead, Sam.
I was just curious because with Act 73 coming in and minimum class sizes with the possibility, is that going to be an impact on what will be available?
Two things. There is a list of offerings over time, so it reads like a history, and there's titles in there that I recognize from the 90s that are no longer offered because the teacher's not here and things like that. So as stated, you're talking to teachers, you're talking to staff, what are kids interested, what would they like to see added or subtracted from the offerings? So when Adam brings you 2 more, these are things that are currently not on the list of titles that have been offered over the past. And so there's kind of an ebb and flow of what you add and from feedback from students, what they're looking for, and from counselors. But I have never sat in a meeting with the MAU that has said, we're going to strike this title from the offering. You can't.
Right. We know that. I was just wondering, a certain question that was being asked. Well, just like they're on the course, but they're not being offered and hadn't been for a long period of time. And how did they get off?
I mean,
That was a good question.
I think, are we specifically talking about the question that you had, Kristen, about the courses that were, yeah, and I mean, so that question, there was a question about special ed courses that are no longer taught. I don't know whether they're from the course catalog, right? I don't know whether they were
represented in the course catalog.
Okay, so, but I don't know if they are now. It's my understanding that and I can confirm that the courses, like, the law changed and the courses were like, the way that they were being taught were not like applying the law, like it did not conform. I can get specific information, and because I don't want to like put words in Dina's mouth, and this is my like non-lawyer ears hearing what she's explaining to me, but that was the answer of why there were certain, like, a style of special ed class was not being taught in that manner. But if there's more specific information, I can ask her to come to a meeting to speak up for it, so I'm not doing something, speaking technically incorrect. So if that's something that you're interested in, I can ask her to come to the next meeting.
I had another question, again, I understand the course offerings change, but there used to be a class called Strength and Conditioning. Would this be kind of like a replacement for that, because that teacher has left?
There's still strength and conditioning.
There is still, okay,
Yep.
I wasn't aware.
Yep.
Okay, so this would be in addition to. Okay.
There is still strength. There's a new teacher, like with all courses, like when I used to teach social studies, I saw contemporary global issues was in the course of studies, but it hadn't been taught for this was 15 years ago when I was teaching. I'm like, wait, I want to teach that course. So it was still there. So I brought it back. I mean, so that's what happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes courses get brought back when teachers see courses that used to be taught that aren't taught. Economics, that happened, like economics is back. So there are courses, we keep them alive and and then sometimes they reappear. So oftentimes it's the teacher side,
Just
but
was curious.
strength and conditioning is happening.
Any other questions?
Reminder to all those tuning in, we're attempting the double this evening, so here we go. Mr. McGuire is not available this evening, but he did send a note. Is it all right if I read that?
Yeah, go ahead.
From the middle school principal, athletics, winter sports getting ready to begin. New at middle school this year is the co-ed swim team, which Mike has already mentioned. In addition, they will be offering basketball, co-ed wrestling, and Nordic skiing. Tryouts and practices begin December 1st. November 24th from 5 to 6 at the middle school, there will be a clinic called What's My Role for middle school athletes and their guardians. The clinic provides information regarding spectators, athletes, and coaches. Pizza, snacks will be provided. That's what you all wanted to really know. That is made possible by a grant through the Bennington Sports Foundation, and a thank you to Tracy Galley and Todd Orway, both for the middle school, to the departments making that possible. Wednesday, December 3rd is the last day of the first trimester for all middle schoolers. Sixth grade teachers will have parent-teacher conferences taking place on the 11th and 12th. That makes it a half day for sixth graders. It will be dismissed at that time, both days. On December 15th, there is a chorus concert taking place at the middle school at 7 o'clock. I encourage you to show up for that. I have it on my calendar. And on December 4th and 5th, eighth graders will begin visiting Southwest Tech, looking at all the opportunities that they might be interested in as they transition to the high school. On these same days, students will be attending an informational session in the auditorium, the high school. I want to thank the Southwest Tech and the high school for making this available to the middle schoolers.
So there's no questions. No, it's a few.
All right.
Okay.
Let me do two things. As Dr. Abbott gets prepared for her presentation, I'd like to make the introduction to the board and the community. Beth Lorge is with us this evening. Beth is the interim assistant superintendent. You may recognize her. She started the year as principal at Pownell. She's been there for a couple of years. Prior to that, she was in Texas for 15 years, a teacher, an assistant principal, and a principal. But don't think she's from the West. She's a native of North Adams, a proud graduate of Drury High School and Williams College. And I am so very, very grateful to the board to have her on board. She's been a huge help just in the few weeks she's been with us. So welcome to Beth.
Welcome.
Welcome. All right. My second teammate this evening is Dr. Kate Abbott. Kate is the Director of Student Services for the SBSU. She will be the last of the directors presenting to you. This again goes with the August, September, October, and November presentations from various directors, giving you an update. Kate's is a little bit different than everybody else. What I asked her to do was the state of Vermont. There needs to be an extra one. I have one as well. State of Vermont presented a report on the state of special education. I asked Dr. Abbott to go over that this evening. She'll do that in about a 10 or 15-minute window. She will be coming back with me in the spring to talk about the audit, not the spring, in January, to talk about the audit that this board has supported us doing through Dr. Roy. So tonight is a state view. The next time we come and see you, we'll be talking about SVSU. I want to thank you, Dr. Abbott, for being with us this evening.
Okay. So you might have heard about Act 73. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about Act 73 through the lens of the special education implications of this act. And the Agency of Education has released a report specifically related to the implications for special education under Act 73. So that's what I'm going to cover tonight. All right, that worked. That's good. So we'll talk a little bit about the legislative report from the Agency of Education on special education, the current landscape of special education in Vermont in the context of larger education system, and the considerations and next steps, both for our district and for the state. Primarily for the state, but as we situate ourselves within that. So Act 73, and how does Act 73 pertain to special education? So Act 73 really has a number of drivers within it, but primarily when it relates to special education, the legislature has been very concerned about the way we deliver special education and the cost drivers to the overall budget as a relation to special education services. So in terms of Act 73, we're looking at how those services are funded across the state and the continuum of services available to students within districts across the state in Vermont. Act 73 in special education. So one of the first tasks that was laid out in Act 73 was a report from the Special Education Division within the Agency of Education about the state of special education delivery in Vermont. So I'm going to cover, this is not a small report, but I'm going to cover some of the highlights from the Agency of Education related to special education, state of state in terms of population, the drivers of the costs of special education, as well as the concept of extraordinary expenditures in special education and why that terminology matters to know. So as we talk a little bit about the extraordinary expenditures are any student's program costs that exceed, in the legislature, was $65,000. Now with inflation, it's more $67,000. So when we talk about extraordinary expenditures, we're talking about when an individual child's education costs more than $67,000. Why is this important to know? We know that there are a small percentage of children with complex disability whose overall program costs exceed that amount. What the state has found is that the extraordinary expenditures are really the drivers of the increase in the cost of special education to the state as a whole. So we want to think about those extraordinary expenditures as we talk about the cost of special education. So landscape, the landscape of education in Vermont. In these two, you'll see in this chart, there's two lines. The blue line is the total population of students enrolled in Vermont schools. And as you can see from the chart, that total number has dropped since 2018-19. However, the red line that's increasing is the percentage of students or the rates of students with disabilities. So as the total population of students in Vermont has declined, the numbers of students or the rates of students with disabilities within the state have increased. Talking about statewide trends in populations, we're talking about complex disabilities here. There's three major categories of learners of disability types that make up the majority of those extraordinary expenditures. The three are autism, emotional disturbance, and other health impairment. So the state did a deep dive into looking at what's happening with those types of complex disabilities across the state. And what they found is that this right here, the top line that you're looking at, relates to autism, spectrum disabilities. And over the course of the last 5 years, autism rates have increased by 33% across the state. This is not specific to the state of Vermont. This autism rates have increased across the nation over the course of that time frame. The other two categories, other health impairment and emotional disturbance, which are also major drivers of the extraordinary cost, have also shown an uptick in the course of those time frames. So you'll see in terms of the other health impairment, which is a green line, I'm sorry, I gave the wrong color the last time, has significantly increased over those 5 years. And emotional disturbance has not increased, but we're going to take a look at how Vermont identifies emotional disturbance and the rates in Vermont compared to other states. But those are the three major categories that drive the extraordinary expenditures in special education. So this chart from the Agency of Education looks at the total number of children identified as having an emotional disturbance in the state of Vermont compared to 2 other similarly populated states. So for this report, Vermont compared itself to Wyoming and North Dakota, as well as to the national average. And there's a couple different data points in here that are really interesting to look at. So when we look at the Vermont's inclusive education rates, Vermont is really good at providing inclusive education. So providing children with opportunities to attend the general education setting for 80% or more of the school day, compared to the national average. So in Vermont, children with emotional disturbance are more likely to be educated, or they're 62% of our learners are likely to be educated in the general education environment 80% or more of the school day, compared to the national percentage, which is only 55%. So Vermont is very inclusive. However, when you look at the continuum of services, Vermont is also, after spending, you're either likely to have 80% or more of your school day in the general education. Then we talk about those substantially separate environments within the school day, opportunities to go to different classrooms during the day. We have similarly but slightly lower rates of those types of placements. But then when we get down to that separate school placement, in Vermont, you're much more likely to be placed in a completely separate school outside of the district if you have an emotional disturbance compared to other states. So in Vermont, placements in separate schools is 19% for students with emotional disturbance, compared to 4%, 4.8% in Wyoming, and 1.8% in North Dakota. Nationally, the rate of placement in separate schools is 10.7%. So when we come to placement in overly restrictive environments, such as separate schools that are completely separate from the public education setting, Vermont is more likely to, you're more likely to be placed in a completely separate environment in Vermont than compared to similarly populated states. And this then drives that high extraordinary cost, because not only are you paying tuition, you're also paying for transportation when you have children that are educated outside their home community environments. State trends with autism, similarly comparing ourselves to Wyoming and North Dakota, which were two similarly populated states. The same trend is true. Children in Vermont who have autism are more likely to be educated inside the general education classes for 80% or more of the day. 63% of learners in Vermont with autism are inside their general class setting for 80% or more of the school day, compared to 40% nationally. However, the same trend is true. You'll see when we look at the separate school placements. So nationally, 5.8% of students with autism are placed in separate schools. In Vermont, that's 9%, compared to Wyoming at 1.9% and North Dakota at 1.3%. So we are great at educating the majority of the population within the general education environment. However, when someone needs a little bit more specialized instruction, our tendency in Vermont is to have either completely general education or the majority of general education, or move quickly to a outside of public education placement, which then incurs the cost of tuition and transportation, which then drives that high cost reimbursement rate. State trends, educational environments. So what the state has noticed in their report is that it's raised the question, does Vermont have the necessary resources to adequately serve all of our students in our schools? Because the chart suggests that we do very well with the majority of students, but then we quickly move when someone needs something different or more to a separate school environment altogether, which then is the driver of that extraordinary cost that we saw. And that extraordinary cost, a very small percentage of students' needs then drive the extraordinary costs within the budget for the state. So over a 6-year period, the growth in extraordinary costs makes up roughly half of the increase in the total special education budget, while it only accounts for 15% of our total population. So this, the likelihood that we need to use private schools or separate schools is the major cost driver for special education across the state since 2018. Medicaid is, you know, everyone loves Medicaid. Talking about Medicaid, I'm just kidding. Not everyone loves that. But Medicaid is a really important aspect of our district budget. So in the last fiscal year, we had over $800,000 in Medicaid revenues that we reinvest into programs and services for kids. So things like hearing and vision screenings, things like mental health. In the state report on special education, they alluded to some major changes coming down the pike to schools in Medicaid and how we bill Medicaid or reinvestment funds. So there's two major changes that we need to know about. First and foremost, there's a statement in the report that states that Medicaid allocations may be redistributed. What that means is we might have more or less Medicaid aid coming to our district in the future, and we don't know how that's going to look yet. The other major change that is in the report from the Agency of Education is that we're going to change the billing system for how we access those Medicaid reinvestment dollars. So we are looking at moving to a electronic billing system that's going to have a new software attached to it. And so we know that in the next 6 months, we're going to see significant changes to our premises to access those funds, as well as potentially what funds are available to our district. And thinking about Medicaid, I liken Medicaid to title. It's a major driver to our services. But those Medicaid funds are coming from the federal government down to the state government, and then the state government allocates to the districts. So it's a major driver for the services that we provide, but we aren't sure how much we're going to get. So it's an unknown number. But we do know that to access that, we're going to have to move to electronic health. And the expected date for that, we've heard from the state, is probably July 1. So changing an entire system of how we bill is going to be a huge lift for us in that state, in that timeframe. And we don't yet know what electronic tool is going to be used. We're also looking at, in the state report, they said we're going to be adding 504 billing as well as IUP billing for services, which would be new for our district. So what I want to leave you with is there's some unknowns in what's coming in terms of next steps for Medicaid dollars, Medicaid billing, and that will come up through our budget process. So for our district's next steps, we know that there's a lot of changes across the state in store with Act 73. And so to situate ourselves well to be able to navigate those changes, we've contracted with Dr. Megan Roy to do an internal audit of our strengths and needs within our own student services program delivery, so that with that information, we'll be well situated to be able to navigate changes coming down from the state level. And in terms of Medicaid changes, we will let you know as we know from the state what is in store for us. But there's a lot of unknown there. And we are looking forward to hearing from the state about how we will be navigating the new Medicaid reimbursement billing system coming forward. So lots of changes. Questions?
I know you said that this was across the state, and I understand why you presented it, but I'm wondering how the SU falls within those percentages. Are we similar to the rest of the state? Are we lower, higher?
Good question. And Kate and I have now been able to see the draft report from Dr. Roy. And to quickly answer that question, we are very close. But what Dr. Roy points out is that Vermont as a state within the union is higher than the national average. So in autism, I believe we are slightly higher than the state average, but then in emotional disturbance, we're slightly slower, but 19 to 22% of your student population served in an IEP. So we're very close to the state. But again, the state is high compared to the rest of the nation.
So could we get that comparison? Is that possible to see where we are for
Yeah.
each of these categories? And then what do you feel the contributing factors are for the increase of 504s and IPs?
Yeah.
So Megan Roy's report is due out in December, and we're hoping to have that to the board after it's been processed by principals and directors, correct?
We'll make
You've
a full
been
report.
there?
Yeah,
Thank you.
sorry, it does. Absolutely.
And that's gonna kind of parse out how our district looks in comparison to the state.
But I can say this, we are close. We are plus and minus ones and twos and things like that. But Dr. was very clear. The state of Vermont is high compared to the state of the nation too. So that's something to balance it.
I'm curious what other states are doing differently. And also you mentioned that there's gonna be new billing for 504s and IIPs. And that's new to our district. Are there other districts already doing this? And what does that look like?
The whole state has to change. So.
Oh, so nobody
what's-
else is doing this.
What's in the report states that they're moving to an electronic health records billing system for the state.
Yeah.
So the state is going to adopt a new technology for the entire state to use for billing.
Okay,
And then we will be adopting whatever the state requires.
okay.
And I would connect that to Act 73. If you've spent time reading all 100 pages, it's a very, there are lots of systems that are supposed to be adopted over the next 5 years. So those of you,
In 3 months, I'm sure.
yeah, that's coming from an experienced educator who's seen this before. So a promise of all these new systems coming online and working flawlessly out of the box, I would offer that as a cautionary tale.
I'm sure Renee can speak to how great the financial rollout was when they did that.
Yeah, at a thing we were at earlier this month, they said that the Medicaid system is actually out for proposal right now. So they haven't even like,
Lord.
yeah.
They don't have the software solutions.
Can I add one thing and then I'll
Yes.
yield. So I won't navigate it tonight, but on the website, the svsu.org website, there are two places that we encourage folks to check out. On the top of the menu, it says superintendent, it says department, and underneath that is superintendent. Underneath that is all of these reports that we've shared August to today. So if you missed something, I want to go back and see that, Tim. You can see that. We've also put all the newsletters in there, the podcasts, the YouTubes, all that you want to check out. All this is an effort to communicate with the community, share information, inform the boards as they get into the work that will be next month for this board, which is budget. And then also on the screen is a button specifically for Act 73. So legislation, the map discussion. I haven't included everything on social media because I would blow up the website. But if you're interested in that, that's kind of where we're putting it. It is on the front page of the website, so you don't have to go traveling and looking for it. We hope that helps.
So
people.
then these kinds of reports that we get here at the board would be there before we have the.
No, we
meeting?
want to show it to the board first.
Okay.
And then and that was my request. We wanted the board to see the report and then we're putting it up on the website for you to see as well.
Okay, I'll bring up once again the equity issue in terms of, I know nobody here necessarily has vision impairment or something, but
It's a good
that
point.
was something that was brought up at the VSBA conference last year. And I asked about it then.
And we've talked about it several times, and I think you and I have spoken about it again recently. We're talking about whether perhaps it could come out when the packet comes out or come out with the warning.
Right.
One of the one of the things that I would, I think the concern, and I would want to make clear, like, part of some of these materials are their tools for a picture, right? And or for a presentation that is not in that packet. So I think sometimes having people take those tools beforehand and not getting the whole framework creates challenges in the delivery, and or preconceived ideas before people walk in the door with it. So I think finding a balance of getting, for instance, everything that Kate didn't necessarily wasn't represented on this document, right? This was a tool she used in order to show us.
Right.
So I think that was where we were talking about the timeline in which we could it could perhaps be distributed out beforehand. And I don't know,
Yeah.
we just haven't said, I don't know that we had settled on it.
Yeah.
So.
This is this is a first time for me and for the directors. So that's all good feedback going forward. Listing it in one spot, my hope is that if you're talking to the community and the community's like, oh, I missed it, they won't have to navigate 20 layers of the website to find it.
Right.
So.
Great. Thank you. This was a lot of information. I know if people are probably going to process it, and I know that we have a meeting and we're going to address it in January. If when you're processing it, you have other questions, please direct them to me and I'll make sure they get to Superintendent Payne and he can distribute them so that they can prepare them for the January meeting.
SVSU report.
All right, I'm going to be very brief because as Tim alluded to a minute ago, we are doing double duty tonight. There's an SU meeting, SBSU meeting that was supposed to start 10 minutes ago. And so I wanna. I teased this in the last meeting. This is more of a public service announcement. If you go to the SVSU website and you go to the search field and you type in the word goals, the very first link that will come up in the search results are the newly outlined goals for the SVSU board, which were completed by several members of this board who also happen to be on the SVSU board. And I'm not going to read all of the subheads, but I will just say that the goals there are sorry, I digress for a second. The goals there are SVSU board goals, and then also the superintendent's goals have been outlined also on that page. You will see by design that there is a definite continuity between the SVSU goals and the superintendent's goals. You should feel that when you read through them. I'm going to just briefly read the headlines of the SVSU goals for this board, and then, you know, hopefully the conversation that we can have going forward is how other boards within the SU can also go through a similar function or do a similar exercise so that we're all rowing in the same direction. So goal number one, as outlined for 2025-26, align the SVSU's strategic priorities to budget investments and improve the board's capacity for data consumption and monitoring accountability. That's number one. Again, there's a lot of sub bullets underneath that, but each of these, but you can get an idea there. The next one is cultivate a strong board superintendent partnership by delivering a shared, transparent understanding of the roles and responsibilities of both the superintendent and the board, and review SVSU's governance processes to ensure that they are streamlined and improve the effectiveness of the governance and the system overall. And then the last one is stay apprised, and this is a big one, ever changing. Just ask Superintendent Payne, stay apprised of statewide developments and regional conversations related to Act 73 of 2025 and actively participate in the consideration of options for the SVSU. So the goals are outlined on the SU website. Just go to the website, type goals. The very first link that comes up will be both the SU goals and the superintendent's goals. And if anybody has, ever has any questions as you read through them, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
I want to I know that we are past our deadline. I think the goals are a super important conversation that probably need to be a little bit longer than this. So I think we're going to put it as an agenda item for the future, because ultimately I think the Mount Anthony board should have goals as well. And ideally they should be specific for our district, but in alignment with the SU's board or the SU's goal. So I think we'll just you can ask quick questions, but I feel like ultimately we should have a broader conversation. So are people okay with that? So
right now, the goals are on the agenda every meeting we got, and you get it, saying that those are on there so that everybody can see what they are for Mount Anthony. Along in there for a number of years, so they still.
Right, but are the goals in line with?
You said something was really important. The goals at the SVSU and the superintendent at that level is definitely going to be different than the Mount Anthony goals and the principal, because we are on the ground contact. And so don't forget about what the goals are for the high school and the students, because that's important. And our activities as a board is being considered in the goals that are there now for the district for Mount Anthony. So whoever starts to say we want to talk about the goals, take a look at the ones that we already got, and we may be able to tweak something along that line, but we definitely need to be focused at this level down a tier 3.
Right. Sure, yes, and I think this is probably why we should have a broader conversation, but you
Yeah.
know, like if we're holding the superintendent accountable to these SU goals and the SU is, you know, like we can't, we should make sure that our goals aren't in complete conflict because then the SU will never be able to, there's gonna be no accountability. So I just think we should revisit it and if we feel that it's appropriate, then we can keep them, and if not, we'll leave them. Any other questions?
Not for Scott.
Okay. Do you have questions for?
I just wanted to say that, I really appreciate it. I emailed Mr. Superintendent Bain, but I think it was great that, if you didn't see it, superintendent showed up at the town select board and presented how the budgets, here at this level are created, because I think most people just think that all the money's going to one pot and that's how their people's taxes are figured out. And I think he did a really great job at explaining it, and I think it's an important partnership to be close with the town, and I thought it was terrific.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think that's on the website too. You said that, right? It's on the website.
Part of the goals too.
Part of the goals. It was great.
Any other questions for Superintendent Payton? The chair, I'm gonna keep this quick. The chair's report, we do have an action item. Renee, you wanna speak to it or?
Sure. So our district clerk has submitted her resignation. That's Cassie Barbo, who's retiring and moving. So as part of that, yeah. It's on vacation right now, but, so December 5th, end of business is when she officially concludes. So with that resignation, state statute requires that this board appoint a replacement. It is the recommendation of the outgoing district clerk to appoint her, what is now her assistant clerk. And I know that the town actually appointed her the other night too as the new town clerk as well for Bennington. So that would be Kayla Thompson. I have reached out to Kayla. She is able and willing to accept the appointment. She would have to run for the seat, which would be, the term actually begins July 1, but we will be voting in March for that. And the role of the district clerk is different than the board clerk because they are responsible for managing elections, making sure that the voters on the petitions are actually registered voters. They help deal with the ballots, make sure that the warnings are correct, seats are open, not open. They keep the official records of everything of the board. So it's an elected position provided through statute, and there's a $1,500 or $2,000 stipend that we vote on every year for that as well. So we just need the board to, if they so choose, to appoint Kayla.
I'd like to make the motion to appoint Kayla Thompson as our clerk.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I got one other thing for you, is that, and it would be remiss to not say this. For the first time since I've been here, we had more representation from the southern part of the state at the annual school board meeting than anybody else there. We had 7 members. 5 are in here right now, and we made some noise. And it's the only way you're gonna get some things is to be present and speak your mind to everybody. And the South had not done that in the past. And so we made some noise, and the other 2 came from the Career Development Center. And if you read the note from the annual school board, there was a little ticker in there that talked about the CTEs, about taking care of things along that line. So I encourage everybody to participate as much as possible, either online, travel, or whatever, but be active.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed that.
Okay. We learned a lot.
Yes, the spirited conversation.
Yes, we did. I'm loving it. Okay, now you.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. I second.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.